Fenlon, we meet again. And again. And again.
I grow tired of your visits, cat.
As do I, you slut.
You are a slut.
You're a slut.
You are the slut.
Cat, ready to dance.
I'm always ready.
Fenlongo, I've missed our chats.
You shut up and fight.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
So, who even watches DAZN? The reason he's thrown his toys out of the pram about DAZN is because 3 or 4 days ago, DAZN issued a cease and desist on Dana White for talking to Ryan Garcia.
What?
Because Ryan Garcia is under an exclusive contract with DAZN. So Dana actually had 2 cease and desists, one from Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya, and one from DAZN.
It has since come out that not just Oscar De La Hoya via Golden Boy Promotions, but DAZN themselves as a platform have sent a cease and desist letter to Dana White for attempting to poach what is one of their flagship fighters in Ryan Garcia for the long-rumored Conor-Benn showdown. Just the other day we were talking about how Dana White recently said, well, nobody's watching DAZN, and it seems that when he said that, he was doing little more than venting, throwing his toys out of the pram, that he doesn't get to have his pick of the litter of DAZN fighters. You can't make the case that nobody's watching this platform and simultaneously rely on the fighters on that platform to beef up your stable or beef up your shows, because if nobody's watching them, nobody's watching their fighters. Why do you keep trying to use them then? The biggest signings that Zuffa Boxing has made since their launch earlier this year have all been fighters that fight on DAZN. Who are you talking about? Conor-Benn? Richardson Hitchens? Edgar Berlanga? All of those guys fought on DAZN. Jayo Patalia fought on DAZN. The biggest acquisitions that Zuffa Boxing has made since their launch have all been fighters that fight on a platform Dana claims nobody watches. So then what's the big deal? You think about the stuff that Dana White has to say about the existing game in town, these promoters that have been in the sport where he's the new guy, and how he thinks they're not doing a good job. They can't be doing that bad if you need so badly for their fighters to fight under your banner. Zuffa's approach upon entering into the boxing space isn't anything that we haven't seen before. It's essentially what the PBC did and what DAZN did, what Boxer did in the beginning. Offering big cash in order to make big acquisitions in the sport. Overpaying fighters to attract talent to your platform, to your banner. We've seen it before, and in the long run, it doesn't work. It didn't work for the PBC like it didn't work for Boxer. Going to the next promoters as fighters and trying to poach them. Trying to poach Ryan Garcia for a Conor-Benn fight in this instance. Benn Shalom of Boxer recently chimed in on the whole thing, saying that Zuffa's moves are scandalous. He believes that Zuffa is strong-arming boxers into deals and locking them in. The core of the issue involves 2 fighters, at least from his side of it. Cruiserweight Chris Billum Smith, who just made his debut under the promotional banner, and middleweight Sam Hickey. Shalom spoke to Boxing Scene regarding these issues, saying, "We have to protect our business because it's dangerous and damages aren't appropriate," Shalom said. "We need to stop them from being able to take our fighters and staff. We can all laugh and joke about it, but it's just not how things are done. Have the fighters been incentivized to break contracts?" The short answer is yes. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm as confused as everyone else, but for that sort of behavior to be going on from a blue-chip broadcaster is pretty scandalous, to be honest. Hickey and Billum Smith are currently under contract with Boxer, at least according to Benn Shalom. On June 6th, Zuffa used both on a televised card on Paramount Plus. It's not that what Benn Shalom is saying is wrong, it's that it's the pot calling the kettle flat. But I thought it was the pot calling the kettle black. Whatever it is, it's the pot calling the kettle something. It's throwing stones in a glass house. It absolutely is scandalous, but it's not something that Benn Shalom, of all people, is alien to, because that's exactly what he did when he approached several of Matchroom's fighters, incentivizing them to cross over to his side. He did it to Joshua Buatsi, he did it to Lawrence Okoli, all when they were still under contract with Matchroom, so now he's getting a taste of his own medicine. He did it with several of the female fighters that had also been boxing on Matchroom, so Zuffa isn't doing anything to Boxer that Boxer didn't already do to Matchroom. Hickey and Billum Smith are supposed to be under contract with Boxer, but on June 6th, Zuffa used both on a televised card on Paramount Plus. Benn Shalom filed a lawsuit against Zuffa for what it perceives as predatory behavior in poaching contracted talent. While White dismissed the lawsuit, Shalom does not seem to be walking away anytime soon. Promotional conflict isn't new to Zuffa, a brand backed by TKO Group, the parent company of the UFC and WWE. However, the contentious relationship usually resided in the MMA realm rather than under boxing's auspices. The fighters will be the ones who suffer, while White and Shalom continue their public battle. Caught in the middle of a beef that can hold up fights and delay their big payday matters. Well, it didn't hold up Chris Billum Smith. For Hickey, who is an up-and-coming fighter, absences and hiatus will quickly derail a career and delay upward mobility. Well, that depends on whether or not Benn Shalom still has rights over these fighters and they're still contractually bound. Meanwhile, Billum Smith, a former WBO champion, is 35 and could be entering the latter stages of his career. Either way, this newly developed beef will play out in the open. So Zuffa's trying to poach boxer fighters, Matchroom fighters, Golden Boy fighters. Zuffa's stepping on toes all over the place, and maybe that's why Turkey El Sheikh decided to back Dana White, decided to use him, because he doesn't have any professional relationships to maintain, any status quo. He's a cutthroat, aggressive guy who's gonna go after what he wants to go after, and he's not gonna be nice about it. The people in boxing ain't all that nice to each other either. Most of the time they're not, but that's besides the point. If you're wondering, after working with all these promoters for a year and a half, 2 years, Turkey decided to bring in Dana, decided to back him. Why did he do it? Could have been because Dana don't got no relationships to maintain, no status quo to meet. He's an outsider. He can use him as a disruptor to interrupt the established balance, the axis of power. But as stated, there's nothing original about what Zuffa's doing. We've seen it before. It's what the PBC did upon their launch, getting 180 or 200 fighters to leave Golden Boy for them. Boxer coming in with their money and getting a few fighters to leave Matchroom for them. It's not new, we've seen it before. Said this in previous videos, it will not suffice as a long-term strategy. In the beginning and in the short term, you can do that to create ripples, to create waves, to draw attention to yourself, and use what fighters you can acquire for your first couple of shows. But after a while, overpaying fighters stops making sense, and you won't be able to do it. Not after a while, no. Paying above market value, it's not a sustainable, long-term strategy. So in the end, once the dust settles, it's gonna boil down to know-how. Like I've been telling you, who knows more about promoting boxing matches? Who knows more about developing fighters? Because it's not enough to just throw boatloads of cash at them. You have to know how to groom them, how to develop them, how to match them properly, how to evaluate their strengths, their weaknesses, all the while sell them to an audience. And in that department, I don't think Zuffa knows what they're doing yet. How could they? Dana is a tourist. Still an outsider. Now, you heard Benn Shalom say that they're not just trying to poach boxers as fighters, they're also trying to poach their staff. Likely to compensate for all of the know-how that they currently don't have. That doesn't surprise me. I remember a few months ago when rumors about layoffs over at Top Rank as a result of them losing the ESPN deal. You remember those rumors about them having to let a couple of people go? You now have to wonder how many of those people might have Zuffa brought over, because people got bills and they need jobs. If Top Rank don't have one for you to do anymore, Zuffa might. Zmoofa! Now, what's our role in all of this as the customers, as the consumers? We're consumers first, before we're anything. We're not signed to Matchroom, we're not signed to Boxer, we're not signed to anybody. Nobody's given us anything to pick a side in this thing.
So you don't have to.
I actually like the shakeup that Zuffa is creating in the industry because things were getting kind of boring before that.
Zuffa, for whatever you think of them, is now giving the existing game in town something to worry about and a reason to step up their game.
Better tighten up the language in those contracts. You better do a better job of delivering better metrics to your broadcast partners for the fans. You better make better fights. You better give the fans a reason to stick with you and not go with them.
I'm not angry that Zuffa's come into the space with all of their money and all of their resources, and they're making things a little bit harder for the existing game in town, because without that, things were getting pretty flat, pretty boring.
I'm not against it, but the perspectives you want to take away from this are, this is not a long-term strategy.
That is, this will not suffice as a long-term strategy, looking to poach other people's fighters by paying them above market value. You can do that now in the beginning, but in the long run...
Shit is gonna stop making sense just as well. Dana can't be too critical of DAZN as a platform or the promoters that are there, because you seem to be relying on their fighters that they've built
to beef up your stable.
One breath you say that nobody's watching DAZN, in the next one, all you seem to go after are DAZN fighters. What, all of a sudden people are watching them?
To the point that DAZN themselves have issued a cease and desist letter as it pertains to Ryan Garcia, who he wants to use for a Benn fight.
They don't want Ryan boxing off platform and being content for Dana White. You might be thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, hasn't Anthony Joshua boxed off platform?
Yeah, he boxed on Netflix on what was an MVP show. Katie Taylor did it 2 times.
And aren't they flagship fighters like Ryan is a flagship fighter? So why do they take a hardline stance when it comes to Ryan, where they didn't do that with them?
Anthony Joshua is a bigger draw than Ryan Garcia by a lot, and he's brought many more metrics to the DAZN platform than Ryan has. You could arguably say the same thing about Katie Taylor.
Believe it or not. So why does DAZN take a hardline stance when it comes to Ryan Garcia, where they weren't that way with them? And it's because reasonable accommodation was not made. When Netflix decided they wanted to use Anthony Joshua and they wanted to use Katie Taylor,
they didn't try to go around Matchroom. They didn't try to poach them behind Matchroom's back. Between MVP, Matchroom, and Netflix, they settled those affairs so that everything works and so that everybody's happy, where what Dana White seems to be doing,
he's being a lot less accommodating, a lot more aggressive, and Golden Boy and DAZN won't stand for it. In tandem with Ryan being a bit of a loose cannon himself, this is not the first time that Ryan would have attempted to go around his own promoter and negotiate a fight.
Guy wants to move like he's a free agent while he's still under contract, and it's not the first time he's done that.
My previous video, I talked about how in late 2024, Ryan tried to schedule an exhibition match with kickboxer Rikuya Enpo without Golden Boy's involvement, without Oscar De La Hoya's blessing.
Guess what? Ryan didn't end up having it. He didn't end up going to Japan. He didn't end up having that exhibition.
The guy wants to move like he's a free agent while he's still under contract with Golden Boy.
It's probably a little bit of an exclusive. I shouldn't even say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because actually, he didn't just receive a cease and desist from Golden Boy yesterday. About 3 or 4 days ago, he received a cease and desist from DAZN saying, excuse me, you need to understand, Ryan Garcia is exclusive to DAZN. Therefore, if you want to procure his services, you need to be having a conversation, not just with Oscar De La Hoya, damn right, he's his actual promoter, but also with the broadcaster that holds that exclusivity. But they think they can just walk in. And right now, it's a really interesting situation, because if that doesn't get resolved, there will be no Ryan Garcia-Conor Benn fight. And DAZN kind of hold the keys to that. And Dana hates it. Because not just has Dana got to have a conversation with DAZN, I mean, Dana won't have the conversation because he's a puppet, but not just as, I don't know, Nick Khan or whoever it's going to be, has got to have a conversation with DAZN, they've got to have a conversation with Oscar De La Hoya. And the one thing that's going to infuriate these people more than ever is that if Dana White is standing up there talking about the fight, Oscar De La Hoya is going to have to be right next to him. That's actually worth making a fight, but I don't think they'll do it. I think he'll say, no, I'm not having it, because this is what they do. There's no flexibility and no kind of desire to work with anybody. So that's the neutral take on the situation.
Now, in spite of the promotional politics and all the toe-stepping, I actually believe the fight can and will still happen between Ryan and Conor because it makes too much sense and it makes too much money not to. And money moves everything in the sport, moves everything in the world.
Moves your girl.
They can work it out. When MVP and Netflix jointly wanted to use two Matchroom fighters in Anthony Joshua and Katie Taylor, they worked it out. They made the business work.
Zuffa can make the business work.
I will admit that where originally I thought Conor Benn versus Ryan Garcia would be paid for by Netflix, it seems they want to do it on Paramount. That does sort of change things. I don't know that Paramount is willing to kick out as much money to bring over foreign fighters that Netflix is.
That Netflix did, because rest assured, to get Anthony to box off platform, to get Katie to do the same thing, it definitely costed them something. Reasonable accommodation and compensation were a big part of how that happened. The same would have to apply here.
And I don't know that you can leave that to Dana White. Let's be honest. Between him and Oscar, the egos are just too big. The pissing contest.
It's gonna end up on everybody's pants. It's gonna be a huge mess.
I think you gotta get Nick Khan to do it, to smooth things over in a way that will accommodate what Golden Boy and DAZN want.
Dana White is a hardliner, and in many ways, so is Oscar.
I don't think you're gonna get a deal done between them. But if you send Nick Khan to do it, who's a lot more tempered and a lot more accommodating, a lot less egotistical, you might be able to make this work.
I believe the fight still happens in September.
Also keeping in mind that Conor Benn has been installed as Ryan Garcia's mandatory challenger. The middleman, the World Boxing Council, could order a purse bid for the fight. And once they do that, well, it's up for grabs. Then it's down to whoever puts up the most money for it.
Once the free negotiation period is over.
You also have to wonder how this affects the potential Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury fight that Dana White claims he will be promoting.
It's very easy to sit up there and say it. It's quite another thing to actually do it. And things don't seem to be going over as smoothly between Dana White and what are DAZN promoters.
Compared to how MVP dealt with those same DAZN promoters. MVP got the job done. In hindsight, you have to give them credit for that. They know what they're doing. Whereas Dana being a lot more abrasive and a lot more aggressive.
He might be a tool, but he might not be the right tool for the job.
So we'll see what happens.